Imagine walking into a room of 500 people. You haven't said a word. You haven't looked at your phone. You haven't adjusted your attire. Yet, without a single gesture, the volume of the room drops. Heads turn. The air feels heavier. In this digital era, we have labeled this aura. We joke about losing points or gaining them as if life were a simulation. But behind the screen, a biological reality has governed human hierarchy for 50,000 years. This is not a vibe. It is a calculated projection of neurobiological dominance. It is the invisible architecture of presence. Moving past the modern terminology, we find ourselves at the intersection of research, history, and cold-blooded psychology. To stop being a background character requires a dissection of the very fabric of human magnetism. Human beings are rapid processing machines. Our ancestors had to decide in 50 milliseconds if a stranger was a leader, a threat, or an irrelevance. This process, known as thin slicing, remains the foundation of your social value. The greatest misunderstanding of presence is the belief that it requires high energy. High energy is the mark of the subordinate. It is the frantic signaling of someone seeking approval. True gravity is found in stillness. In the realm of psychology, this is defined as low-arousal dominance. This dominance begins in the endocrine system. Research into the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, reveals that high-status individuals possess a distinct hormonal signature: high testosterone and low cortisol. Testosterone provides the drive and the social confidence, but it is the lack of cortisol that creates the aura. When an individual has high testosterone, but also high cortisol, they appear volatile, aggressive, and stressed. They are the loose cannon. However, the combination of dominance and stress insensitivity creates a calming, heavy presence. It signals to the collective lizard brain of the room that you are the apex predator. Predators do not fidget. Only the hunted are in a hurry. When the nervous system enters a state of agitation, the body betrays itself. The pupils dilate, movements become erratic, and the tempo of speech accelerates. These are leaks. They signal to every observer that the environment is in control of the individual. Presence is the inverse. It is the projection of a parasympathetic peak, the ability to maintain a resting heart rate while the world is in chaos. Evolutionary biology provides the framework of the costly signal. Consider the peacock's tail. It is heavy, it hinders flight, and it demands immense biological resources. It is costly because only a truly superior specimen could survive while carrying such a burden. For a human, that tail is relaxed vulnerability. An individual lacking presence is perpetually armored. He hunches to protect his vitals. He hides his hands. He avoids the gaze of others. Mastery involves unarmoring. It is standing with an open chest and an exposed neck. It is the silent declaration that you are so confident in your capacity to handle conflict that you have no need to guard yourself. This vulnerability is the highest form of strength. It is the expensive display of being completely unbothered. History is the ultimate witness to this weight. It is not written by the most intelligent, but by those whose presence warped the reality of those around them. Marcus Aurelius did not merely rule an empire, he ruled his own nervous system. His gravity was born from ataraxia, total imperturbability. To receive news of a catastrophe with the same internal stillness as one receives a meal creates a vacuum. When you refuse to be moved by external stimuli, the world begins to orbit you. You become the fixed point. If you do not react to the world assumes you are more powerful than the event itself. This concept was echoed in the East by Miyamoto Musashi, who spoke of the void, a state where the ego is deleted. Desperation is the ultimate killer of presence. The moment you require a specific outcome, be it a signature on a contract or the laughter of a crowd, you have surrendered your power. You have handed the leash to the other person. Musashi entered every duel as if the conclusion had already passed. When you have nothing to lose, your shadow becomes terrifyingly heavy. This is the psychology of outcome independence. Presence is built the moment you decide you no longer care about the result of the interaction. Even those of smaller stature, like Napoleon, commanded the height of the room through visual anchoring. He understood that presence is a performance. He crafted a silhouette, the hand and waistcoat, the specific hat, that was recognizable from a mile away. He utilized the psychology of scarcity. He did not mingle. He appeared, he commanded, and he vanished. He knew that proximity erodes mystery, and familiarity breeds contempt. True gravity requires a layer of the unknown, a black box that the observer's imagination fills with greatness. But history also shows us the dark side of this magnetism. Genghis Khan did not just conquer through military brilliance, he conquered through the aura of inevitability. He understood the certainty bias, the psychological fact that humans will follow a confident leader into hell rather than follow a hesitant leader into heaven. By being absolute in his decrees and chillingly consistent in his actions, he created a psychological weight so heavy that cities would surrender before his horses were even visible on the horizon. He removed the possibility of negotiation from the minds of his enemies. To cultivate this today, one must treat social interaction as a cinematographer treats a frame. Most individuals leak energy constantly. They tap feet, touch their faces, or shift their weight. Every micro-movement is a puncture in the vessel of their presence. Entering a new environment requires the 3-second rule. Stop, count, and scan. Do not look for a familiar face. Do not seek a place to hide. Simply observe. This is environmental dominance. It signals that you are assessing the room rather than the room assessing you. Movement must be weighted. Imagine walking through water that is waist deep. Every step is intentional, landing firmly on the heel. The scurry is for those who feel they do not belong. Voice, too, must carry the weight of subharmonics. The human ear equates lower frequencies with authority, but the secret is not in the pitch, it is in the downward inflection. Nervousness causes the voice to rise at the end of a sentence, turning statements into questions. This is upspeak, a submissive plea for validation. To command, every sentence must end on a lower note than it began. It is a law. It requires no confirmation. Silence is your most potent weapon. Most people are terrified of the gaps in conversation because silence triggers the amygdala, creating social tension. To fill that gap with linguistic clutter, like, actually, is to admit that you cannot handle the tension. The master of presence allows the silence to sit. He lets his words land, then lets the quiet force the other person to process them. This is the pregnant pause. It signals that you are comfortable in your own skin and that you do not need the external noise of others to feel secure. This is coupled with the delayed gaze shift. If someone calls your name, do not snap your head toward them. That is a stimulus-response loop, the mark of a follower. Instead, turn your head slowly, then let your eyes follow. This suggests that you are the one deciding to grant your attention, rather than it being pulled from you. In the world of pupillometry, we know that dilated pupils signal interest or arousal, but a steady, unblinking gaze signals dominance. Master the slow blink. It shows that you are not in a state of hypervigilance. The digital landscape has fundamentally changed the nature of presence. Here, aura is determined by the value-to-noise ratio. In an age of constant screaming for attention, silence is the ultimate high-status move. The individual who is over-available is a commodity. The one who masters the psychology of the ghost, disappearing for weeks and returning only with high-impact contributions, becomes an icon. Scarcity creates value. You cannot be a force of nature if you are always reachable. Your attention must be the most expensive thing you own. Beneath the surface lies the bedrock of competence. You cannot project what does not exist. The Dunning-Kruger effect may provide a temporary mask, but true presence is the byproduct of skill acquisition. When a master of any craft walks into a room, his aura is the shadow cast by his capability. He knows what to do when the system fails. This internal certainty translates into physiological calm. You do not try to have presence. You simply are the person who knows the way. External gravity is a lie if the internal core is hollow. We must also consider the role of mirror neurons. When you are in the presence of someone truly calm, your own brain begins to mimic that state. You feel safer, more grounded, and yet instinctively aware of their status. This is the transference of aura. By mastering your own internal state, you are literally rewriting the brain chemistry of those around them. You are not just standing in a room, you are broadcasting a frequency. This leads us to proxemics, the study of how humans use space. The subordinate contracts. They try to take up as little room as possible so as not to offend. They keep their elbows in, their legs crossed, their belongings tucked away. The dominant expands. They claim their territory. They sit with an open posture. They expand their physical footprint. This is a subtle signal to the subconscious of everyone present that this area is under their jurisdiction. It is the sprawl of the sovereign. To reach a higher level of mastery, we must examine the serotonergic system. Evolutionary biologist Dr. Robert Sapolsky noted that alpha primates don't just have high testosterone, they have high serotonin. Serotonin is the status chemical. It regulates your feelings of well-being and social confidence. When an individual has high serotonin, they exhibit a relaxed, open posture. When serotonin drops, the body physically begins to fold into itself. This is the biological root of the low aura hunch. Aura farming is the conscious manipulation of your own neurochemistry. By adopting high-power poses, you can trick your endocrine system into dropping cortisol and raising testosterone. This is not faking it. It is a physiological override. The face is a map of your internal state. Most people have leaky faces. They micro-expression their doubt and their hunger for approval. In the wild, showing the whites of your eyes, the sclera, is a sign of terror. High aura individuals often have a hooded gaze. This is the relaxation of the orbicularis oculi muscle. When you show less sclera, you look like a predator that is focused, not a prey animal scanning for an exit. Couple this with the jawline of certainty. When we are stressed, we pull our chin back, a submissive turtle reflex to protect the throat. Aura farming involves the chin lead. Not an arrogant tilt upward, but a slight projection forward that keeps the airway open. It signals that you are not afraid of physical or social confrontation. Queen Elizabeth I mastered the psychology of the icon. She inherited a bankrupt kingdom and was surrounded by men who wanted to depose her. She understood that the human brain cannot distinguish between a person and a symbol if the person is consistent enough. She whitened her face to a ghostly pallor, wore massive collars, and spoke in riddles. She practiced frame control. In any interaction, there is a frame. The person who asks the most questions or defines the terms of the conversation owns the frame. She never defended her right to rule. She simply acted as though it were a law of physics. When you stop defending your presence, people stop questioning it. That is the assumption of authority. Robert Greene's laws of power are essentially instructions for this cultivation. Law 4 states, always say less than necessary. The more you speak, the more common you appear. High aura individuals are information sinks. They take in everything and give out very little. This forces others to keep talking to fill the silence, eventually revealing their own weaknesses. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect. If you are always at the party, you are part of the furniture. If you are rarely seen, your appearance becomes an event. Law 5. Reputation is everything. Guard it with your life. Aura is the external projection of your reputation. If you are known as an individual of high competence and low drama, your presence precedes you. There is a final layer, purpose. The Greeks called this telos. A man on a mission has a different focus in his eyes. He is not looking at the people in the room to see if they approve of him. He is looking through the room toward his objective. This creates a gravitational pull. People want to be near someone who knows where they are going because most people are lost. A clear, burning purpose leaks out of the pores as presence. It is the radiance of a soul that has found its direction. To rewire the neurobiology of the self, a conditioning process is required. It begins with the elimination of leakage. For 7 days, the goal is total stillness. No leg shaking. No facial touching. No filler words. If a thought cannot be expressed clearly, remain silent. This silence will feel like an eternity to you, but to the observer, it appears as deep, contemplative power. This is followed by the cultivation of vocal gravity, speaking from the diaphragm, not the throat. Lower the volume. People with true presence do not shout. They speak softly enough that the room must lean in to hear them. Then comes the mastery of the entry, applying the 3-second rule and the weighted walk to every door you pass through. Practice the long gaze, holding eye contact for 1 second longer than is comfortable. Finally, embrace the void. Spend time in solitude. Build your competence in a private skill. True aura is not built in the spotlight. It is built in the dark through the relentless pursuit of mastery. Presence is most visible when things go wrong. When the crisis hits, most people react. They panic, they complain, they gasp. The individual of high gravity simply watches. He is the last man standing because his emotional state is the last thing to break. By controlling the breath, one controls the heart rate. By controlling the heart rate, one controls the aura. Remaining calm while everyone else is losing their minds is not just a trait, it is the ultimate signal of leadership. To maintain this state in the face of failure is the final test. When the project fails, when the relationship ends, when the public shames you, does your posture change? If you can maintain the same weighted presence in the valley of defeat as you do on the mountain of victory, your aura becomes legendary. This is the unbreakable frame. It is the realization that your value is not granted by the world and therefore cannot be taken by the world. As you move forward, remember the law of the black box. Never reveal everything. Never explain yourself more than necessary. Let the world wonder. Let them speculate. Aura lives in the gap between what you show and what you are. By maintaining that mystery, you force others to invest their mental energy into you. And where energy goes, status follows. This is not a suit to be put on. It is a skin to be grown. It is the result of 1,000 small decisions. The decision to stay silent when you want to brag, to keep your back straight when you are tired, to look someone in the eye when you are uncomfortable. The world is a mirror. It reflects back the value you place on yourself. If you treat yourself as a sovereign, move as a sovereign, and speak as a sovereign, the world has no choice but to build a throne. The architecture is now yours. The biology is understood. The history is clear. The mechanics are set. Stop seeking attention. Start cultivating presence. The world does not need more loud voices. It needs more heavy souls. Walk slowly. Speak clearly. Remain still. And watch as the world begins to part for you. The weight of your existence is now a choice. The chemical signals you broadcast are now under your command. The gaze you hold is now an anchor. In every interaction, ask yourself, am I the stimulus or am I the responder? The responders are the many. The stimulus is the few. Be the fixed point around which the world revolves. This is the Masterclass. This is the architecture of presence. The journey into the void has begun.